My name is Warren Waggenspack. I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Born and raised in the shadow of LSU. Worked my way through, graduated in mechanical engineering with a bachelor's and master's degree from LSU, and then led up to going to Purdue for getting a PhD in mechanical engineering, and found my way back to begin my teaching career at LSU in January of 1988. And I just retired from LSU in June of last year after 34 and a half years in order to take on a second challenge and look at I'm starting my second career working on the core stages of the Artemis rockets going up into space, working with Boeing. My connection to this whole computer graphics world comes the route of geometric modeling. As I was finishing my bachelor's degree, I was interested in engineering graphics and this new emerging technology at the time that was helping facilitate building geometric models, 2D drawings and 3D drawings, and the initiation of what we call solid modeling or volumetric modeling. And I was particularly curious about that and getting involved with the computer graphics as the way to interface and do that efficiently and effectively. That's actually a tie-in to the SIGGRAPH 99 logo too, because it is a geometric structure. It's a knot. Basically, it's a mathematical knot. And Alan Rockwood, my papers chair, pulled that together and worked with it because that was my emphasis. That was my connection into that whole graphics world. I attended my first SIGGRAPH 1982 in Boston. And for 3 or 4 years after that, as I was finishing my graduate degree, I actually got involved as a volunteer starting in Chicago, I think it was 92. I volunteered to work with the registration group and did that for 3 or 4 years, and then got asked to be the sketches and applications chair in 1996 when it came down to my hometown area in New Orleans in the Digital Bayou. Digital Bayou was a pretty immersive experience. You may hear it discussed by Scott Owen and a few others. They were on the CAG with me. It was set up like the bayous of Louisiana you see in the background here. So the entranceway was a bunch of palmettos. It was a palmetto cave, which is palmettos are a frond-based plant that are very much swamp related. If you see palmettos, there's water around, and you can build walls out of it and coverages. And then there was the fire retardant moss episode in setting up the Digital Bayou in New Orleans, because in order to have it installed inside that area, it had to be fire retardant. So we had to come up with ways to make fire retardant moss, which was a spray setup on there. So it was like walking through one of the swamp scenes you see, everybody sees about Louisiana, with a bunch of interactive exhibits all throughout, wandering through just emerging technology type stuff. From there, the rest is history. I became the SIGGRAPH 99 chair and thoroughly enjoyed that time. And worked my way through the few years before SIGGRAPH 99, and then followed on the CAG, or the Conference Advisory Group, for the few years after that. My career then took a right turn, and I got called into doing some serious administrative roles that just chewed up a bunch of time, and haven't remained as close with the SIGGRAPH community as in the conference area, but kept in touch from afar. And the relationships you build working with SIGGRAPH folks are tremendous. Never have I worked with a group of people that work so hard to produce such a quality experience, had so much fun doing it. And the laughter is what I remember. The smiles is what I remember. I was asked a question as a chair: what do I most like about SIGGRAPH, the experience, the conference? And they started to talk about technical areas. I said, no, what really excited me about SIGGRAPH is the enthusiasm that every single individual there was expressing. It didn't matter if you were on the art side, the engineering side, the highly scientific side, or the creative animation side. People would sit there enthralled listening to your stories about how you engage and how you're being creative with the computer graphics. Be it still art or animations and simulations. That's what I think is the energy that has driven SIGGRAPH for years. SIGGRAPH 99, 42,700, and the exhibition space was roughly 150,000 square feet. It was the second largest. I think Scott Owen's SIGGRAPH 97 actually ended up being the largest. A couple of things that happened that year. Number one, there was this, every year there was this grassroots effort. They like to think of themselves as rogue. It was called the Guerrilla Gallery. It was a collection of hardware, the folks that would bring hardware to the conference, the high-end hardware, the emerging stuff that nobody really had much access to in their own locations. But it was called the Guerrilla Gallery. They set it up there and people could come throughout the week and 3D print and use some high-end softwares and other things to build their own animations or sketches or whatever they were working on. Well, we formalized that into, called it the studio, and brought it in formally. And Anshuman Razdan from Arizona State University was the first chair for that, and made it part of the whole SIGGRAPH lore, the SIGGRAPH opportunities and things that you were working with. The different educational components merged into something called the schoolhouse. So we had the K through 12 education and the university education, and this modeled after the Schoolhouse Rocks sort of theme that you hear in some of the public stations that promote education. And then had a bunch of the traditional papers. Alan Rockwood was the papers chair. All the papers every year at SIGGRAPH are phenomenal, and they all kind of blur into one for me because to figure out which ones emerged each year, because it's been accelerating over time, which is a great thing, and producing some phenomenal results. So to me, SIGGRAPH 99 was about the people in the place in Los Angeles. We filled the arena. Jim Blinn was a receiver of the Coons Award, and Tony DeRose, two phenomenal individuals. Tony was the Computer Graphics Achievement Award. And we had an interesting process of working through the keynote there. And our keynote ended up being Helmut Ferguson. He is a mathematician and sculptor, large 3D sculptors of mathematical geometries. And I'm talking about very large in stone. And these are installations. They're 10 feet, 12 feet, 15 feet large. So he has to use a lot of high-end rock chipping equipment, sculpturing equipment, and all kinds of harnesses to make sure that he could get the actual geometry straight on a lot of his different sculptures. They're really cool. He actually showed up at the conference with a number of different sculptures that he had done, the smaller scale ones. And it turns out the guy's a unique individual. He's ambidextrous. My introduction to him, for me, was pretty cool, because two of my colleagues and one of my committee chairs had him as a teacher back at Brigham Young in Utah. He used to write on a chalkboard with both hands, write an equation and come together in the middle. He was a character. He wandered around the conference in the hotel, and he'd be juggling pens and things and other different objects. He was definitely a unique character. It was a well-received presentation, and he had tangibles. Tons of people were up there touching all of his different sculptures. The premise of the sketches and applications were that there are a number of people that have some really cool ideas. It's at the start of their developing of an application, or at the start of their developing different techniques in computer graphics. And it gives them it would give them the ability to present the early stages, get some feedback, some critique, some commentary, whatever, and actually get a timestamp put on their work so that they could be credited downstream with being one of the initiators of that technology, of that particular technique or that tool. So it was really works in progress that had developed far enough along from a basic concept to where they had sketched out the ideas and have started to develop it, but it's still in the early stages. I'm Louisiana born and bred, and I come from a very large family, expansive throughout Louisiana. So I grew up doing all the outdoor activities. I was quite involved in athletics all the way through, from kindergarten all the way through. I was a good training partner for an All-American decathlete as I was entering LSU and working my way through. I discovered 2 years in that I wasn't going to make a living at sports, so I decided to get serious about school instead and took that pathway. But I've always been involved in athletics, outdoors, so I do hunting and fishing with my brothers. We do a lot of family projects on farms and things around here, houses, cutting down trees, splitting firewood, doing, not that we really need firewood in Louisiana, but people will do it anyway. I enjoy people. That's why SIGGRAPH was a thrill for me. I got to watch enthusiastic people really engaging and enjoying one another's presence and enjoying hearing the stories that they tell. And SIGGRAPH has quite a few storytellers too. So that's one of the beautiful things you'll see. I started at the registration desk as a volunteer, met some wonderful people and worked my way through, got to contribute in a number of different ways, ultimately ended up being the SIGGRAPH chair, where I got to select and work with a phenomenal collection of people. The way to experience SIGGRAPH is to get involved.